So Norlander has spent part of this week looking back at the coaches who were hired in 2019 and assigning them grades on how they've done. I'll let you take it from there. Here's my question.
Yeah.
Who's the best coach? Run us through the notable hires of 2019 and then tell us who's done the best from your perspective.
I will, but before we do that, this is now the 7th year I've done this. Do you like my premise? My premise is I understand why people want to read grades and we want to give grades, but I have an issue with grading someone before literally any work is submitted. And so I thought this was back, I guess I started in 2016. I thought, why don't we, and at the time it was, let's give them one full recruiting cycle. Those don't exist anymore to this level. But regardless, it was like, why don't we wait actually 3 or 4 years, have them build up an actual resume, multiple seasons, see what they do. And then, we circle back and we say, oh, by the way, remember when these guys got hired? Here's how they should be graded. What do you think of my system and thought process here? Fair?
It's a perfectly reasonable off-season project. I approve. Thumbs up.
I agree. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Nada's got it up on the screen right now, including a nice little autoplay video ad there. There we go. CBS Sports HQ. Watch if you are not already. All right. Have you looked at, don't scroll down, Nada. Before I get into them, have you looked at any of these grades?
I have. I've looked at all of them.
I can't quiz you on the grades, so I won't do that. I'll just take the viewers and listeners through this. Here I'm gonna give you the guys that were hired, and then I'll give you the grades. So 2019 was a big year. Now 2020, when I got to do this a year from now, trivia time.
Steve Forbes.
Correct. He's the only power conference coach hired in the year 2020. I don't know what I'm doing next year on this. I don't know what I'm doing.
You'll just grade Forbes and call it a day.
That's quick work for me. I can't wait for that one. 2019 was big. It was a very, very busy year. So here were the guys hired in the power conferences. Nate Oates went to Alabama. This is in order, alphabetical order for school. Alabama got Oates. Arkansas hired Muss. BYU, I'm calling it power conference because they're going to the Big 12. BYU hired Mark Pope. Cal hired Mark Fox. Cincinnati hired John Brannon. Michigan hired Juwan Howard. Nebraska hired Fred Hoiberg. St. John's hired a man named Golden Gate Mike Anderson. Texas A&M hired Buzz Williams. UCLA hired Mick Cronin. Yes, this is the same cycle in 2019. UCLA hired Cronin, the greatest coach in program history. Vanderbilt hired Jerry Stackhouse. Virginia Tech hired Mike Young. And Wazoo, up there in the Palouse, hired Kyle Smith. Let's go bad news first. And there are a few other mid-major notables that I'll get to near the end. Worst hires by grade. I gave Brannon a C-. Now he went 32-20. He won 60% of his games, but he got fired after year 2. Cincinnati fans think I should have given an F. He did win 60% of his games. Now he did get pushed out, and they tried to fire him for cause and take all his money. It ended terribly, but he did, like, win percentage wise, did win a decent amount of games. So I had to at least take that into account, GP. So
I would argue, and I like John Brannon, but I would argue if you get fired after 2 years, you can't get a passing grade.
So it's got to be an F.
I mean, again, I like John Brannon.
Wow, an F no matter what. Okay, I didn't hand out a.
If you get fired after 2 years, that's an F grade.
It's hard for me to give you an F, and it's hard for me to give you an A. I'll go A-, but it's hard for me. There have been very few A's since I started doing this. A-, yes. I just think broadly speaking, take John Brannon out of it. I just think if you are a college basketball coach and you get fired after 2 years, something went terribly wrong. Okay, that's that's fair. I cannot and will not change the grade now. I will take that into account moving forward. I don't dismiss the opinion of Cincinnati fans. Year 1 went reasonably well enough that I wanted to at least account for that before it all went bad. There were some bad ones. Mark Fox, D-. I didn't give him an F. He did last 4 years, 38-87 though. Just went 3-29, the worst season in school history. He's a D-, which I would not have thought upon his hiring, but there we go. I gave Fred Hoiberg a D+. And I think that's pretty fair. Now the reason why is, to this point right now, Fred Hoiberg is 18-61 in the Big Ten. He's 40-83 overall. Now he just came off a decent season, but I can't I can't go much higher than that. Like it's not a great job, but those are the 3 worst from that cycle, in my opinion. Hoiberg, Brannon, Mark Fox. Any thoughts?
Well, Hoiberg's still employed, so I'd put
Yeah.
him higher on whatever list
Yeah.
than the other two. And I'm with you on Foxy. I thought like he was rock solid for a pretty long time at Georgia. Like it never really got too far off the ground, but he was pretty solid there. And I thought he was one of those guys who was maybe nearly immune to having terrible teams. But that thing at Cal it did not go well at all. So sure, I imagine that grade is fair. At the tip top,
Mm-hmm.
who did you give Mick Cronin the highest grade?
He was
Of
tied. So I gave Muss and Cronin A minuses. Now Muss gets an A- because he's made 2 Elite Eights and a Sweet 16. Didn't have a tournament team all 4 years. Obviously, there was no tournament in 1920, but we played most of a season, and there were projections and all that. And he was like the 9th seed in the SEC tournament this past season. I understand why factors played into that as well. He's done a really good job. Muss A-, I think, is fair. Cronin also A-. Made a Final Four, but had to squeak into the tournament. The thing is, like, I thought about giving Cronin an A. He did just win a Pac. Like, he's won 1 league tournament, but I feel like if you had he's had a tournament level team all 4 years, but maybe more than 1 league tournament would have been worth an A. He's gone 99-36. That's really, really good. Obviously 57-19 in Pac-12 play. Something that I did account for. Not that if you don't do this, it should be a demerit against you, but he also hasn't had guys transfer out the past 2 seasons for the most part. And that's kind of speaks to the culture you have and the coach you are. And it's been a big time thing. So essentially I had Cronin and Musselman tie. If you made me pick, I would say Cronin has been the best hire of the cycle. Obviously you agree.
I think
he's made a Final Four. I think you have to agree. Like he got there. Now he got there from the first 4. They almost missed the tournament, but he did get there.
Yeah, let's let the Final Four be the tiebreaker then. But I would throw Nate Oates into the same class as Muss and Cronin. Why?
Nate Oates has underperformed versus his seed more than the other 2. And I did take into account the PR disaster and his mishandling of what happened this past season. To me, that actually mattered. So I gave Nate Oates a B+ on balance. The Alabama athletic department cannot get out of its own way, and it just fired its baseball coach. Feel free to Google that story as well. I mean, it really is one thing after another with that school. Oates has done a good job overall, but I think it should be a mark against him. And part of this was influenced by, and you referenced this on the podcast as well. Like we heard from a lot of, I understand why coaches are not going to go public with it. I get this, but we heard from a lot of coaches who were like, what the hell is going on down there? And what is Nate doing? So his reputation understandably has taken a bit of a ding. I had to take that into account in addition to everything else. And there's been plenty of good. I mean, I've written features on Nate Oates prior to all this and what he was doing to change over the Alabama program. No doubt about it. He's 92-41. So his win percentage is slightly better than Muss. It is not as good as Cronin's. 49-23 in the SEC. Had an NCAA tournament level team 3 of the 4 years, but had a 1 seed, didn't make an Elite Eight. Had a 2 seed, lost to the UCLA team, didn't break through deep into the tournament there. So there have been some NCAA tournament letdowns, and that's why I went B+.
Totally reasonable. I should clarify. I would put Nate Oates in the Cronin Muss category strictly from a basketball perspective. If we start taking other things into account, like the Brandon Miller situation, absolutely, that was a mishandled public relations nightmare. And if you want to dock him a grade for that, no complaint from me.
All right, let's 2 more here. I gave Buzz Williams a B. Buzz right now is 76-47. That's 62% of his games he's won. He, as I put in the piece, he's kind of quietly done a good job. He's finished 6th or better in 3 of his 4 seasons in the SEC. At Texas A&M, that's a really solid job. Now he just made he only made, I couldn't go above a B because he did only make, the tournament once. So, and he did do it this year. Now he just narrowly missed last year, but he missed it. Overall, I think he's done well. He is sub 500 in the SEC. He's 36-38. So a B felt like the fairest thing. I think he's doing well there. And then, kind of bringing it full circle, I gave Juwan Howard a B as well. 79-48. That equates to a 6.22 win percentage. He's had 2 NCAA tournament teams that were 1 and 21. I mean, it was a 1 seed and came a play away from making the Final Four in Dickinson's freshman season. So that was good. They overperformed last year versus their seed expectation, but it's been bookended by, some letdowns. He's 46-31 overall in the Big Ten. His son is a one and done, going to be an NBA pick. Kobe Buffkin is on his way to being picked and potentially in the first round as well. And he helped elevate Dickinson's game, but now that feels a little bit more like the jury's out in terms of what was there, was not there. And then in a different way, but if I'm going to dock Oates, I don't know if I wound up really docking him that much. I don't know if he would have been a B+ if this had never happened, but he was involved in a high profile, major embarrassing incident with Wisconsin that became the story of, I don't know if the week, but for a solid 72 hours in the sports cycle, Juwan Howard going after Joe Krabenhoff and getting into Greg Gard's face was a negative impact on that program. He served a suspension that lasted through the end of the regular season. And so that still has a little bit of staying power with him. So Buzz and Howard, I gave both those guys Bs.
That's fine. I think Juwan's largely been good there. I know some folks have soured on him because of the incident in the handshake line with Wisconsin, and this past season, obviously disappointing, but I still think, generally speaking, he's done a good job at Michigan.
Michigan, how about this? Let me phrase it this way. Michigan loses John Beilein to the Cavs. Yeah, that was 4 years ago, people. And we fast forward 4 years and we say, where's Michigan basketball right now after losing Beilein? And I think if you really take everything, put it on the table, you say, you know what? It could be a little bit better. It certainly could be worse. We take it as we have it right now. And I think they need to be satisfied. I think that I think a B is fair. And that was 2019 was a big year, man. And as we do this, I'll kind of spin it forward on you heading into next season. Oates has job security. Muss has job security. Pope has job security, even though he's coming off his worst season. We'll see how BYU adapts to the Big 12. Mark Fox has gone at Cal. Brandon's gone at Cincinnati. Howard has job security. Hoiberg is entering a hot seat season. Golden Gate Mike, 4 years and done, obviously. Williams has job security. Cronin has job security. Stackhouse does have job security. I gave him a C. There's always a little bit of noise around there, but he does have, he signed a new contract a year ago, and his buyout is pretty significant. So I don't even know if he's true. I don't think he's entering a hot seat season. Mike Young has a solid amount of job security. I gave him a B-. And Kyle Smith, because that job is so difficult, obviously if one of these coaches winds up winning 11 games, which I don't think is going to happen, then the factors can change. But really, Hoiberg is the only one in that group that enters next season, I think, in a fair hot seat situation. And then real quick on the mid-majors, and we can get out of here. We can make this a shorter pod. It was a good year that year on the mid-major ranks. Dustin Kearns has App State like in one of its best 4-year runs ever. Casey Alexander, even though Belmont has not made NCAA tournaments with regularity, go look at the record. Like, he's continued to win, dare I say it, at near Rick Byrd levels, and that's no easy feat. Dennis Gates went to Cleveland State that year. He's now at Mizzou. Rob Lanier went to Georgia State. He's now at SMU. Amir Abdur-Rahim was hired at Kennesaw State. Bone, hooty hoo. Hooty hoo. What does it stand for?
God.
This is your acronym.
Build.
Yes.
Build. Organize.
Yes. End's the best one.
Nourish.
That's right. Gotta stay nourished.
And electrify.
That's right.
Phone. Hooty-hoo.
Hooty-hoo. Danny Sprinkle went to Montana State. He's now at Utah State. Darren Horn went to Northern Kentucky, still doing well there. Jeff Bowles has done a good job at Ohio, taking them to the tournament. Todd Golden went to San Francisco. He's now at Florida. Eric Henderson went to South Dakota State, and Mark Madsen went to Utah Valley. He's now at Cal. So a lot of those mid-major hires 4 years ago, those guys have already scooted on up to the power conference ranks. It was a big year, and you're right. It's a good way to fill the content void in the off season. I have fun doing this each year, looking back and kind of just, maybe pushing back ever so slightly against the hot take culture that's out there a lot. Why not just let things play out naturally and then try and assess grades as fair as possible? And appreciate you indulging me on that. If you're interested in the piece, we will link it in the pod description.